Dick Barton is he's a smoothie. He's a good guy. There is nothing bad that you can say about Dick Barton. He's a good driver. He just loves to race. I mean, you can see that, and he's a personable guy. I mean, Dick, what can you say? You walk up to Dick, he loves everybody. And I'm gonna tell you what, my favorite driver was Bobby Snars. At 5 years old, I had a go-kart. It was a red #1. I was a Bobby Snars fan. And when Dick beat Bobby's record, I was kind of bummed. But I understand things change. I tried racing in 78, 79, and 80. I couldn't race my way off this table. I sucked as a race car driver. I was horrible. 81, I was helping out Chub Frank on the race car. He runs Spectator. He says, hey, you want to help my dad line up cars in the pits? That's when Franks and the Briggses owned the track. He says, hey, you want to help my dad line up cars? I said, yeah, sure, he'll pay you. I'm like, hey, all right. So then I became a pit steward. So in 81, I lined up cadets because Chubb runs Spectator. Then when Chubb moved up to cadets, I went down and lined up spectators so that people didn't say, oh, you're buddies with this. And I started out in 81 as a pit steward. Worked as a pit steward for a few years, then I became an on-track lineup man, which I saw Smokey, which worked at Lernerville. I saw some of the moves that he made, like the crisscrossing on the track, being splitting the cars on the track, just the hoopla of it. And I liked that part of it. So I thought, man, I can line up cars on the track. Then I became an assistant flagman to Greg Wheeling, which Greg Wheeling is probably one of the greatest flagmen that I know. And he's smart, he's on top of things. I just enjoyed working with Greg. Worked with Greg Wheeling for a year at State Line and Erie's. And then I became Greg's assistant down to Lernerville Speedway. And I liked that. I mean, I like being the assistant. I like just being up on the flag stand. I love to be a showman. I love to be a showboat. And I love the people. I mean, when I walk into a speedway, I try to talk to the people when I see them. I walk in and I'm like, hey, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? And when you're on the flag stand and you look back into the crowd, you know that there's where the Barton section is. There's where the Scott section is. There's where the Lackey section is. There's where, so-and-so section is. You know what people are going to be sitting where. On the violations, if I'm going to be put on the hot seat, I'm the one that's going to take the brunt of it. I've relied on some other people to make the calls. And early in my career, I relied on a couple people to make the calls. And next thing I know, I come out and I ended up getting burnt because that was totally the wrong call. But when I'm up there and I'm making the call, doggone it, I better be making the call that I'm 100% sure of, because when I walk out of there for the night, I want to be 100% sure that I did the best that I could do at the time that I saw what I saw and had to make the call. Times that Mark and I work together, there's times that I'm ready to make a decision. Mark will grab my arm and say, no, hold off. That's not going to be, like if I'm going to black flag somebody, he's grabbing my arm and pulling it back. It's like, hey, stop. And I'll go, what? He says, I'll tell you in a minute. I see the tail end of something that you know what had happened, but he's like, no, don't do that, because he had already lost it and this guy's already come into him. They radio down and say, okay, these cars are in line, they're ready to go, cut them loose.
So then it's your call. Then it's kind of like when you're ready, go.
Yes, once they say Spanky, they're lined up, they're ready to go, I say, okay, we shut the lights off. I have Ryan Matthews shut the lights off. I said, okay, drivers. And that's another thing where the communications to the drivers.
So the yellow light goes off.
Yellow light goes off.
No lights are on.
No lights are on. I radio to the drivers because we have race receivers. This is what I say to them. Drivers, lights are off. Bring me a nice start. Coming out of 3 and 4 at the cone. And bang, we go green. On the double file restarts, Delaware restarts, it's easy. I mean, you see that guy, the leader brake, it's a free-for-all. On double file starts, you want to give the guy that has the point the advantage. But if the guy picks, you know, say the guy, you know, double file, you got inside, outside. First place car decides to take the outside. He goes to the outside. There's a little more grip down on the inside. When they start to go and they crack loose at turn 3, turn 4, I mean, it may look like this guy wants to go, but this guy just picked the wrong lane. He got the loose stuff. So that's where you call it off. I mean, just try to give the guy, not only are you working with the guys on the front point, you got 22 or 24 guys behind him that you've got to be responsible for. Oh, yes. A good guy, Skip Furlow. Probably in the early 90s at Erie's. We called him in the caution. He never stopped, and he comes up on the flag stand and says, "Spanky, I never stopped." I mean, so Skip Furlow. And you've got to have respect. When Skip Furlow comes up on the flag stand, when he parks his car underneath the flag stand and comes up onto the stand itself, and I'm standing on my cement blocks just so I can be as tall as Skip, and Skip's telling you, "Spanky, I never stopped," which was true, but we gathered him up in the caution. I mean, there's a gray area on the, if you stop for a, you know, there's a lot to do. But yeah, Skip Furlow is probably one of the nicest guys that you could ever encounter. And when he's coming up on the flag stand, and his hands are as big as your head, and he says, "Spanky, I never stopped." He's just a good guy.
In front of everybody.
In front of everybody. I mean, and everybody loves Skip Furlow. Everybody loves Skip Furlow because there's not a bad thing you can ever say about Skip Furlow. One of the things that Franny told me, says, "Spanky, just leave it at the track." And, I mean, it was tough for me as a young, upcoming flagman, wanting to be the best flagman that I could possibly be. It was tough. It was tough to leave it at the track, but I had to because it would just tore me up on the inside. Did I do this? Did I not do this? And if I'm wrong, yeah, doggone it, I'll tell you, "Hey, man, I blew that call. I was wrong." And I've done that before. I've come down to people and said, "Man, I'm sorry, I boned you. You know, it was a bad call on my part. Now that I see it this way." This is what I've always said. On the track, it's business. When you come out, you're just cars and numbers. Off the track, we can be friends, neighbors, and drink a couple beers together. And Brian Emery, driving cadets, told Al Cressley, "Hey, I'm going to start to, you know, it was a King of the Hill deal. I'm going to start the races on the track." And it's just 2 cars. Next thing I know, somebody was supposed to have told Brian Emery. Well, Brian Emery didn't get the memo. Next thing I know, they're coming out in turn 4, and they're like side by side like this. I'm on the middle of the track down on the speedway. Finally, they split. I'm giving them the green. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could have been a bad deal.
So that was the end of that?
That was the end of that, yes. Yeah. I mean, it was going to be a fun thing. 2 cars. What could go wrong? Well, there's what went wrong. Because I want to be a show-off, and I want to be a showman. I want people to say, "Who was that guy that did the 4-flag finish?" I want them to say, "Spanky Hall." I started out with 2 regular flags. Well, actually 4 regular flags, and I duct taped them together. So here I've got, 34 and 34, 72 inches of flag right here. and 72 inches of flag here doing the 4, taped together, duct taped together. Then I got to thinking, well, you know what? I can improve that.
Yeah.
So I took one staff and put 2 flags on it. And my flags are 24 by 30 inches. So now I twirl them like a baton. And people say, oh, did you ever twirl a baton in school? And I'm like, no, but I think I went out with some girls that twirl batons. So anyways, that's what I do, is I use one staff, 2 flags, which is 48 inches, then I leave about 6 inches, so that's where I put the gap in, and then I just...
Oh, it's incredibly impressive.
I will say yes. Yes. I mean, I will toot my own horn. When I watched it on the video there, I'm like, man, that is cool.